Now, is it dependent on the board?
It can be.
It can be.
Yeah.
So that
yeah,
is
you
one
can
of the
have
factors.
Catanese bulls that'll throw small calves. And you can breed them like to a Jersey, which is smaller.
Yeah. So I didn't know that they did C-sections with them standing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can't do it when they're laying down because they're so big. You know, you can't them lay on their back. That whole four-stomach thing gets in the way.
That's true.
Yeah. They just numb them up and do it. Alright, so we're here for a meeting of the Pittsfield Media and Communications Committee meeting for Tuesday, March 28th at 6 p.m. Howard Margolski and Heather Donahue in attendance. Let me take notes. Okay, so our agenda was shortened due to shuffling some of the items to other committees and responsibilities. So we have one item for discussion with a couple parts to it tonight. Discussion is about town committees. Should there be guidelines for committee operations as far as meeting schedules, publications of schedules, agendas, minutes, time and place of meeting? Should committee meetings be required to be held here in council chambers since we have the town hall stream service available? And what I did this afternoon is I went to the town website and I pulled off a list of all the committees and boards and trustee boards that are listed on the website. And I went through the town code and the ordinances here and just made a notation of where they're all found.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of the information that is on the website doesn't talk, some of the committee information talks about how the committees are structured, who is on those committees, how they get to be a person on the committee, and some of the committees have it laid out in the ordinances when they meet, how often they meet, and what their meeting schedule is. Like the planning board specifically says it's the second Monday of every month at 7 p.m. But not all the committees have that. So I guess that would be part of the first question is, should all the committees have a set schedule that they meet on?
My sense is that they should. Okay. Now, whether they have business to discuss at that scheduled meeting, okay, is another issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In other words, the meeting shouldn't be held if you've got nothing to discuss.
Right.
All right. But I think rather than, the confusion that I've noticed, in the past couple of years is that, one raises an issue that, well, we haven't had a meeting of such and such a committee in a long time. When is everybody available? Okay, or when is anybody free?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I think that if you know that you meet twice a year or quarterly or monthly, that you set the date and time ahead for the year, and within a week of it or so, if you've got nothing to discuss, you cancel the meeting. Okay. You can always schedule an emergency meeting or an urgent meeting of any of the committees if you've got an urgent matter to discuss. But I think trying to, like even with this committee, okay, it's an ad hoc committee, number one, all right? But,
Yeah, we don't even appear in there.
Yeah, no, I know. So, but we tried to meet, several weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and you were away for a couple of days at a conference. I've been away on vacation.
Yeah.
But if we knew ahead of time that there could have been a meeting on such and such a date, you maybe couldn't have gotten it, but I could have maybe go down to see Sarah at a different weekend or something like that, to make it easier, okay? And that way, other people, either on the council or in town, who have a pertinent issue to discuss, knows that to bring it to this committee at a certain time.
Okay.
So that's my feeling on it.
I agree with that completely.
Now, who schedules that? You know, who makes up there needs to be a person in the town office, okay, to control the schedule,
Yeah.
okay?
To make sure there aren't committee meetings.
Yeah.
Especially if we want them to be able to be utilizing the town hall streams. We don't want everybody scheduling meetings at the same time.
Yes.
So.
So that should be, you know, determined that one person's in charge of it, okay? You know.
So master calendar.
Yeah, master
Which is-
calendar. You
I
know.
guess that's kind of what they have going on the website, but I don't know if there's like a paper version of it that has certain times blocked out. Like you can't schedule a theater committee meeting on, well, they have their own schedules, their schedule is set. But like the Parks and Rec committee, when do they meet? Do they have any minutes they're submitting? You know.
If they're, theoretically, if they're a committee of the council, okay, there should be minutes.
Right. Right.
You know, and if
But I mean, as a counselor, I've never received a report from the Parks and Rec committee or a lot of the other, like the airport committee, we've never received a report from the airport committee on a regular basis. Some of these don't even, I mean, they're in the code, like the economic development team, the community development advisory committee, the revolving loan fund that just hasn't had to meet, which is fine. If there isn't anything for them to meet, there's anything for them to meet about. But like the pool committee, we've never received a report or anything from the pool committee.
and have they met as a committee?
Right, yeah, so just in interest of keeping residents apprised of committee work on their behalf and the council apprised of work that's going on in the committees, I think it's a good idea for the committees to, you know, to be submitting their minutes of their meetings, because it should become part of the public record.
Right, right. There should be minutes, okay? You know, they can be brief, okay, particularly if we have all the meetings here in the council chambers.
Because there's another form
Recorded.
of record for
Yes.
it, right. So that would be a recommendation, a guideline recommendation.
Yes.
We'll just star those as we talk about it.
Yeah.
And then having a set schedule.
Yeah. Now this has to deal with committee functioning, okay? And having one person in charge of a calendar, or, you know, a person in charge of a calendar to basically set it up, maintain it, okay? The analogy, okay, I've found that particularly with doing the bicentennial now, we're trying to incorporate a lot of the events that necessarily occur, may occur annually, okay, with changing dates and everything else. There should be some way to track those for the town,
Right.
okay, in one calendar too, okay? You know, as an example, you know, we had planned to do the Kiwanis bike, you know, this is off the subject, but, you know, the Kiwanis bike safety event that they do annually. It was supposed to be on May 11th, and I just got an email that it can't be on May 11th, it's going to be in June. Now, how is that information disseminated?
Right.
You know.
It's always been that same like weekend or week.
Yeah,
Time.
it's always been a Saturday, and usually in May.
Yeah.
For some reason, they're doing it in June this year.
Yeah.
And it happens to fall on the same day as the bicentennial is doing the time capsule opening and the dedication of the boat launch. So that's really not a good
Not
day to do
ideal.
it. Yeah.
So, but have they already set all that in motion and stuff, or?
I let them know that
Yeah.
that's not a good time, you know.
Now, was the bicentennial committee kind of like looped into the bike rodeo thing as part of a bicentennial celebration?
We
event?
basically
Trying to incorporate it?
incorporated it, okay? We're just trying to highlight, you know, doing the bicentennial is basically highlighting all of the events that Pittsfield does necessarily in a year.
Right.
Okay, including things like Trunk or Treat, Egg Festival, and anything else that we do, on an annual basis as a town.
Right.
Okay.
So having that would almost be a social calendar, like an events calendar versus a meeting calendar.
Yes, and it's separate, and it's separate
but
from
it's the same idea as far as being able to organize.
conceptualizing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of like a big picture organization.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be a good idea. Alright, so there should be a master calendar at the town office. For upcoming meetings, because some of them, like the planning board meetings, should all be on the calendar, on, the theoretical master calendar and the website from now to the end of the year. Unless there's a reason that there's a holiday or something that it falls on, like if the second Monday might be Veterans Day in November,
Yes.
so they might have to move the meeting or something like that.
Correct.
But that would be, I think that would be a good recommendation too, to have that, be a master calendar for, just trying to keep track of all the committee boards and meetings and that type of thing. So I don't know if we wanna go committee by committee and see, what else was on here? So we had schedules, so meeting schedules, publication of schedules, so that would be the calendar and the town website.
Mm-hmm.
And that master calendar could be incorporated with the town website. And it might be the same person doing both, or it might be better to have it live with two different places.
Yep.
Agendas, I know like this agenda, I put together, just because time constraints, I put it together yesterday. And in retrospect, it should have been done a week ago in order to give more notice about what was being discussed and be able to interact a little bit better with people about issues that were on the agenda. And we did have some adjustments to it. So, so is that, as far as having the agendas, I know if we're putting something on the town council agenda, it has to be in the Wednesday before.
So what's that, 3
one.
business days before?
It would be Wednesday evening at 5, so it would be Thursday, Friday, and Monday before. So it's 3 business days, but it's 5 calendar days, I think, is what the ordinance reads on that.
Okay, that is in the ordinance.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is. Let me look. Regularly. I think it says something about publication of social meetings, streaming, items for meeting, on or before the close of business, 4 business days prior to said meeting, so it would be counting the Tuesday of the meeting. Clerk shall prepare an agenda for meeting, provide distribution to the council at least 3 business days. So the council gets the agenda and the items 3 business days, so that gives them like a day to set everything.
Yep.
So,
And I think that's probably reasonable.
so 4 business days.
Right.
Prior to meeting date. Okay. I think that's reasonable to for notification too. So okay, so we covered schedules. Minutes should be taken and filed with the town clerk.
Right.
Is there anything, do you think we need to specify anything as far as actions, just actions, should reflect actions taken.
Yeah, actions and any referrals to other committees or council.
Time and place of meetings that would be scheduled, that would be covered under the master calendar that we talked about. So the next big question is whether or not, like, which committees should be required to be held here in the council chambers now that we have the town hall streams service available. You know, which committees would make sense to have them meet in chambers here in order to preserve and record what's going on in the committee meetings.
So, a lot of these committees haven't met or aren't meeting on a regular
Right.
basis, right?
Right. Well, I don't even think we have a community development advisory committee or the economic one is even in existence at the moment.
Right.
But, you know, something like that, it should be, you know, I kind of think all of these committees were created for a reason and that they were important enough that the work that they do was important to the town, enough for the town to say, we need a select group of people to work and be dedicated to working on this at a certain amount of time. And I think that because of that importance that's placed on that, it should be preserved, because it can affect what other committees need to do, or it can affect other actions within the town, and people should be able to be informed about questions coming before the committees and what the committee actions were on those questions.
Right, like this first one, Community Development Advisory Committee, it doesn't even say who comprises this, aside from the fact that it's...
Well, that's where not everything, this is like a shorthand version of what the committee is. So that one is the community, so it's 9 to 13 people. I think that part's missing. Yeah, it's 9 to 13 people that serve. They are served for 1 year at a time. They can be reappointed to successive terms. Because some of the committees say that you can only serve 2 terms and then you have to be off for at least a year. So this you can serve successive terms. The council should balance the committee's composition to represent the town's interests, and it goes on to talk about who would be good candidates for that. You don't need to have town residents on the committee, but at least 75% of the committee members in any given year should be Pittsfield residents qualified to vote. And then it goes on to do the duties, and that's what's reflected here, I think, is the duties of the committee is listed here.
It's almost like an update on the town plan for the year, you know?
To some extent. I think it's definitely using the town, comprehensive plan. Both like on it.
Yeah.
I think they're definitely using that for guidance, but I mean, there's some things on here like research and evaluate potential outside funding sources, make recommendations on programs and applications for funding. I mean, that sounds like grant writing. You know, that sounds like identifying projects, providing oversight for community development projects, coordinating with other towns, elect leadership from among the membership, develop rules and procedures as needed to conduct the business. So this leaves it up to the committee deciding how they operate. It just says they have to meet twice a year. And it also talks about reviewing development needs on an annual basis. So that's where taking into economic development, social services, housing, infrastructure, and other factors, you know, like based on, you know, Edwards building closing several years ago, you know, they could they could have looked at that and adjusted what the plan would be going forward in order to react to that. Or even knowing that it was coming, you know, there could have been some planning done on that. But there's also supposed to be an annual report to the town, as far as identifying needs and recommendations for the town under community development. And this, is just, it's pretty broad. Community development is pretty broad, you know.
This is almost like the annual report, pretty much, that is created out of this.
Part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. This is kind of like a state of the town type of application, I think, where people on the committee would be looking at the town as a whole, you know, where are we going, where are we at type thing. Kind of almost like a little mini update to the comprehensive planning here.
Well, I mean, I've only been on the council for 2 years and haven't heard anything about that meeting, you know, and
No,
you've been on longer. And
this advisory committee, we've never appointed anybody to it. I don't even think it's kind of defunct at the moment.
well,
So.
you know, it's either so from that perspective, it's either we do a review of the comprehensive plan annually and you know, kind of a state, like I said, a state of the town, you know, report, and that should that be, because the way that I see it right now is that that's been a function, if you look at it as the town report, the annual report, that's been a function mostly of the town manager doing it.
Right.
Year to year.
Right, and it's more of like dollars and cents reporting versus this, I think, takes into account, like the town report is all the statistics of the town.
Yeah.
And the dollars and cents and, you know, how many library books were loaned or how many items were checked out. And, you know, so it's like the counting of things that have to do with the town. Versus this almost seems like it's more of the human capital with it as well. And that I don't think always gets reflected in the town report. So, but I mean, I think it would be definitely, this would be the type of committee that should be in this room so that, you know, wider conversations can be had.
So would we, I think it's important as such, you know, we're in a time of difficulty with respect to funding and infrastructure issues, that I think this is a way for a community advisory committee to basically help prioritize to a certain extent.
Yeah.
You know, seems fairly important, you know. And even if you start this, you know, from the perspective of a business forum type stuff,
right,
you know, and in community development, you know, that may be a way to get it going again, you know. I think this would be useful, certainly.
So what I'd like to do is go through like each of these and just make a recommendation of which ones should be required, I guess, or suggested to be held in this room for the town benefit of the town hall streams.
Yep.
And that I think would definitely
should be here.
Be one that should be in here.
Yep.
Plus it's a pretty big committee for 13 people, so
yeah.
Put it like that. And then the airport committee, I'm not even sure where they meet. Maybe they meet down here already. I'm not sure what their meetings schedule is. This does not, it didn't lay out, I didn't write down what page the airport committee is on. I missed that one. It was here it is, page 2. So this just has the, again, the duties are listed. It's just 7 people. The counselors, it doesn't say how often they're supposed to meet or anything like that. A town council person is supposed to be, a town council member is supposed to be appointed each year at the first council meeting in January. So it doesn't specify when they need to meet or how often. And I don't know if the more specific committees like this should be, I mean, it's 7 members.
Well, I would assume that this would be almost an ad hoc type of committee as well, from the point of view of meeting whenever
Right.
you need to.
Right, meet when necessary.
Yeah.
And I would think that if they have, like we have the expansion coming up with the hangar, that they would need to meet more often if they were working on the hangar paperwork or something like that.
Yeah.
So is that one that should be meeting? I almost think they all should just meet down
Personally,
here.
I think that as long as we've got the availability of recording the meetings here and streaming them, it would make record keeping a whole lot easier,
Right.
as well as,
Yeah.
allow people who might be wanting to listen in or view in
Right.
for any of these committees, to meet here in the chamber,
So there's some, I agree with that it would be beneficial for that. There's some in here that we definitely would want to exempt from that requirement.
Yeah.
I think, possibly the Fair Hearing Committee, because it deals with, people's personal financial information.
Right.
Could be the general assistance administrator if somebody, were declined general assistance. I think that's,
I would not want that to be aired.
I wouldn't, so I think that we could have exceptions to that,
Mm-hmm.
just in issue of people's privacy,
Yeah.
because there would be sensitive discussions for that. The economic development team would definitely be one that would be beneficial to have.
But
Broadcast.
there's no effective committee right now.
There is no effective committee right now, but that's another hurdle altogether, is to kind of reestablish. I think the town would greatly benefit from reestablishing those 2 committees, because there's a lot that they could work on, and this economic development team committee is actually charged with
Economic development.
to establish a regular meeting schedule to address economic development activities. That could be anything. I mean, that could be the Egg Festival every year. They have a meeting to see what they could do to help with the Egg Festival. It could touch other things in town and provide support to other things in town. Create an economic development action plan for consideration by the town council on a yearly basis. That, to my knowledge, has not been done. Assist the town manager, promotion of community and businesses, available to assist the town manager, promotion and expansion of economic development efforts.
But this has been taken over by Peak.
Right, and the question is that appropriate, or is there a role here for, a broader, I understand that Peak handles it because of confidentiality issues with particular businesses that are looking at either buying property in town or are seeking guidance through the town, maybe for a tip or something. I can understand that if there's economic privacy issues, or they require secrecy, confidentiality, then that's fine, that's appropriate, but I don't think that all of the economic development for the town should be put into that basket. because there's a lot of economic development activities that can happen within the town that don't really require that, you know.
It's true. You know, they were, this team was in charge of the revolving loan fund as well.
Well, there's another one for that, the Housing Rehabilitation Revolving Loan Fund.
Now, this is the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund.
Yes. Yeah. And so I don't know, I don't think anybody's applied to that. I don't even know if we have
I don't know if we have any
funds
money
in
in
it.
it.
Yeah,
You know,
so that's
so-
the question.
Yeah.
But I mean, if this, I think that that's a group that could definitely meet in here so that people are aware of efforts within town for economic development. And then if there's always the option for them to go into an executive session for their committee if there's a sensitive issue that's gonna be discussed. You know, they always have that option.
I agree with that. You know, I think this has been questioned a couple of times. Why are we even keeping it on the books? If we, you know, if, as it's been explained to me, that everything economic development wise right now is being done through Peak. All right, and we don't have any money in the revolving loan fund. All right, is this a committee that should either not exist or not exist as such, and redefine what its role is? Okay, I think you're right, and I'm kind of questioning if this can be, well, the Community Development Advisory Committee, you know, it's hard to separate community development from economic development in a town like this.
Maybe they could be combined.
That's what I'm questioning, that as a possibility.
So that could go, because they are listed in the ordinances, then that would be one that we would shift over to the ordinance
Committee,
I think.
just to have them look at it to see if there's a certain amount of redundancy in here, that to simplify the committee structure, basically. Or is there some mandate from the state that we have to have a certain number of committees?
I have a feeling that these committees were generated as the community block grant type requirement, where you have to have a community development advisory committee, because Catherine mentioned at one of the meetings before that when the sidewalk project, or the Main Street project, then that would be activated in some way, but we don't have a committee per se right now, so I'm not sure. So that would be, maybe that's a question we can bring up on Tuesday at our report for this meeting.
Okay.
Fair Hearing Committee, we said we were gonna exempt that because it would have to do with personal financial information. Finance Committee is a council committee, made up of 3 town council members. That should definitely be a public recorded meeting. It deals with the town, and if there's something that needs to be discussed of sensitive nature, then we would just go into executive session for that. Housing Rehabilitation Revolving Loan Fund Committee. It says it's the Airport Housing Rehabilitation. Maybe that's a error.
Maybe it's just the housing rehabilitation.
I think it's just a typo. The Housing Rehabilitation
Revolving loan
fund. And I don't even know if we have funding in this or not, or if the town co-signs on loans. I'm not even sure how this works.
I'm not sure either.
But it looks like they set up guidelines for the fund, management plan for the fund, setting a rate of interest.
But is there a committee, are there people assigned to this right now?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I haven't heard of any activity for that in the 5.5 years I've been on the council, so I would guess no. But if there were to be activity, is this something that, so they might be dealing with financial applications if you're talking about loans to someone for a housing project. So this might be one that would be exempt from having their meetings.
Yeah.
Or
Recorded.
maybe it's open and then if they're discussing sensitive things, then they're.
Yeah. Well, I'd almost exempt this one, you know. If somebody's applying specifically for it, for a loan, I would probably not want that here.
Well, I don't think that, that they would be like discussing their financial documents openly, but I think it would be a matter of like what the projects would be type discussion, I would imagine. Not having seen this committee in action or anything from this committee, it's hard to say. So, but for now, we'll do that. The ordinance committee for the council is definitely one that needs to be held in here, and that's a council committee with 3 council members. Parks and Recreation Committee is town residents, 5 members appointed by the council for 5-year terms. They're on page 25. So, well, this is different. This says 5-year terms, and yet, okay, the initial ones were for 1, 2, 3 years. So yeah, that's all it says here, is what it says there, is that there's 5 people on the committee, members are appointed by the town council, and that they have responsibility for supervision, administration, maintenance, and improvement of Manson Park and Hawthorne Park, act in an advisory capacity to the recreation director. And there was more information listed here for Article 3, Section 900, but I don't. Section 900. I don't even know what Article 3 is. 2. Chapter 3? I think we might have to look a little harder for this one. Use definitions. Oh, unless that's, I don't think it's section. Yeah, I'm not sure what section Division 2 is referring to. I don't remember seeing any other divisions in here. But in general, I think the Parks and Rec committee, they don't really deal with anything confidential, so that's a committee that could be on the town hall stream.
Yep.
Police Labor Negotiating Committee is a council committee with the town manager, and that should be exempt.
Mm-hmm.
The Pool Committee, 5 members of the town, they deal with everything pool related, report to the town council annually. I'm guessing that's covered in the annual report, is considered the annual report that we receive.
Correct.
Make recommendations to the town council and town manager for needed capital improvements. So, that is definitely anything that they might be discussing could certainly be held out in the open. Recycling committee, again, that's another one that, you know, is good for, public interest for people to know what's going on with that. And that's 7 members of the general public, and one, no, I'm sorry, 7 members with 1 being a council member, so it's a council member plus 6. Theater committee, I think same thing. There's a lot in the admin code about the theater committee, specifying when they meet, and the time and where. It says
Okay,
they meet in
council
here, so
chambers,
that's
yeah.
covered on that one. Board of Appeals is 7 members and 1 associate member appointed by the town council. I don't think they've had to meet.
I don't think they have either.
But that's dealing with zoning issues, so that's something that would be openly discussed. Board of Assessment Review is the same thing. Property owners not satisfied with their assessment, so that kind of goes along with the Board of Appeals. Board of Ethics.
Like, should it be an exempt meeting, even if?
The Board of Assessment?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think so.
No.
I don't know, the property tax assessment is a public record anyway, and it wouldn't be any personal financial information that would be being released, it would just be being discussed, the value
tax,
of the building.
property.
Yeah,
Okay.
just the valuation. And that would be for both the Board of Appeals
And Board of
and
Assessment.
the Board of Assessment Review. Board of Ethics, that could be a sticky wicket, because it might have to do with personnel issues. So it's a 5-member board of the general public appointed for 3-year terms by the town council. You have to reside in Pittsfield, can only have 2 consecutive terms, and then you have to have a period of time off the board. It's an advisory opinion to the town council when there's a doubt as to the applicability of any provisions under the administrative code of ethics in a particular situation. The board limits its review and fact finding to those issues referred to it, involving alleged or potential conflict of interest on the part of town councilors, board committee members, or performance of other official duties with respect to deliberation and voting on agenda items before their respective bodies.
Well, I don't think we've had a meeting of
I don't think
that
it's ever
board.
met. But I mean, if it did, it would be, whatever would have already happened going forward, would have already happened in council chambers
So
if
it
it's
would be
committee meetings, so it would all be in the public
public interest anyway.
interest anyway. Board of Health, I don't think they meet either. It's an advisory body to the health officer. That would be public too.
Yep.
Personnel Appeals Board, because it deals with personnel issues, would be exempt from that.
Yep.
And that's 3 members of the general public that are appointed by the town council that sit on that board. Pinnacle Park Board, 3 people, 3 residents, appointed by the town council. There was not, I don't remember seeing anything specific in here as far as when they needed to meet or anything like that. Pinnacle, that's all it says.
They usually, as far as I know in the past, they've kind of met on their own, and I'm not sure
Yeah.
where they've met or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, I would guess they would meet at the Pinnacle, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But if they're meeting as a board, kind of like, we could have gone and sat at Pop on Overs and had coffee while we're doing this and not be freezing. So, they should probably be here for their discussions as well. Development and maintenance of the park. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think that it is, community interest in, as such, again, take advantage of what we've got available.
Right.
Yeah. The only question I'd have in that regard is that since it's not necessarily, we don't know when they meet, or
Right.
how often they meet, and would there be any conflict between that and any other meeting that would be on the master schedule, you know, and not be able to meet here.
Right. I can try and check with Heather to find out. Heather
Okay.
is on the committee.
Yep.
But I mean, that's something that could be squared away pretty easily, I
Mhm.
think, probably. Planning board, that's, already held in this meeting, and their date, time, and everything is
Yeah.
already set by ordinance. Cemetery trustees, 3 residents and the superintendent appointed by the town council. I don't think that, there's no regulations as far as when they need to meet or how often. I don't know how often they need to meet, but, you know, in the interest of the public and knowing how they're laying out the standard lot square of 324 square feet. And that's what it says.
Okay.
That's what you get. Yeah. So I think that's fine, that can be in here. And then library trustees, I would assume they meet at the library on a regular basis.
They do.
Do you think, that they should also be meeting in here because it's a townwide service and in the interest of the public?
Yes and no. You know, I think that it is a townwide service, you know, and the fact is that I think they meet on a regular basis, and they've been meeting for so long at the library. I'm not sure.
Can't get them to come over.
I want to force them, you know.
Well, the other thing too is they have a building that they're entrusted with, so they have a space to meet.
Yeah. And they're
Versus the other committees, you know, don't really have a space dedicated to their.
and this committee is, or these trustees are so dependable at putting together minutes.
Right, and submitting reports.
Yeah. That I'd be
Okay.
hard pressed to
Okay.
say you've got to meet here.
Okay. Okay. Alright. So the other item of discussion, and Councilor Billings had made a suggestion to adjust the committee structures and add seats on committees for residents to hold. And this would actually fall under the ordinance committee because all of the seats are listed in the ordinances. So, I mean, we can have a generic discussion about whether or not to do that. She wanted to not have this on for this evening because she wasn't able to make it tonight. So we can always just not discuss this and then maybe talk about it on Tuesday night at the meeting.
Yeah, I would
The
handle it
council
that way.
meeting.
I would handle it that way.
Alright, so I'm gonna pass over that, and do we have any new business?
Not that I'm aware of.
We can review, Michael Fioli, our assistant to the town manager, provided some data on the town website. He's been doing some work on that. He was at another meeting tonight and wasn't able to come in person. But he provided some data as far as the Google Analytics on visits to the town website and how that's going. He's done a lot of work in the last, let's say, couple months, several weeks. Been working on cleaning up the website, organizing it, making it easier to find things. There is a calendar on there now with most of the meeting dates on there. There's links with the agendas when they're available. And I'm pretty sure that, I know the town council agendas and minutes are put on. I'm not sure about the other committees. I think
Planning
after
board.
the fact, I think they get put on. Last time I looked at the planning board, they didn't have it on ahead of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they just put it on after the fact?
I think
more or
so.
less?
I think the minutes are posted afterwards.
Okay.
But, and that would be for all the committees, because you can't do it during, but yeah. So you see anything jump out at you, or trends are up?
Yeah, they're getting, these are number of hits in, over a course of a week, or a few days.
Do they have a date? March 21st to March 27th, so that's just this
A
week.
week. 1,900 hits,
1,900 hits this week.
total pages.
So that's individual page views, so if
Yeah.
somebody goes on to the home page, and then they click on the departments page, like I did this afternoon.
Okay.
That's a second page view, and then, and then if you click on to like a committee, then that would be another site view. So it depends on how much you explore when you're on the website, how many actual pages.
So
you visit.
the entrances is the number of, are those the number of people that signed on, or?
I would think that's the number of people that are entering the website. So individual visits to the website, and does it say if it's identified as individual? Like if you go multiple times, is it like in single users?
Well, it's got page views and unique page views.
So maybe unique page views is if you go back and forth between pages, it doesn't count it
Again.
more than once. Because it can track it by visitor and where somebody goes on your website.
That's interesting. So this was 556 users. Then it has new users and sessions. This is by location. Hmm. 17 users from France. Interesting. One page, and that's it. So we don't know if this is the same person going on 17 times. It's interesting data. Maybe Mike can give us a better explanation as to what these mean.
Mm-hmm.
And is this a trend over time? And does he have any data from before he improved the website?
I think the Google Analytics, that's something you have to go in and sign up on. You put code on your website to track things. And I think that was done after our January, February meeting or something. So I don't think we have information from before that. It was just a site visit counter. It counted how many visits to the site there was.
Okay. Maybe you can give us an update on this, and maybe we can look at it again in maybe 3 months to basically see if there's any trending.
Yeah. Maybe quarterly.
Yeah.
So January, February, March, April.
And since he's been looking at it, maybe, is there any way to get more granular to it as far as, what people are looking for?
Mm-hmm.
He's got these things, government departments and things like that.
So those I think are the individual pages.
Okay.
that people are looking at.
Events
So that'll
calendar.
give you an idea of which page or which item on there that they're clicking on to look at further.
Yeah. A lot of stuff on the theater,
Mhm.
which is